Be ready? Start. This court in JK Private Limited versus New Kaisar-e-Hind Spinning and Weaving Company Limited has held that once a winding up order is passed, the assets of the company under liquidation are passed under the control of the liquidator, whose statutory duty is to realize them. Thereafter, the creditors are paid out by the liquidator from the sale proceeds of the assets of the liquidated company. The creditors have to be paid in terms of the waterfall or priority mechanism. Therefore, payment has to be first made in terms of Section 529 of the Companies Act to overriding preferential creditors, then to preferential creditors in terms of Section 530 of the Companies Act, and lastly, payment has to be made and distributed pari passu among the ordinary or unsecured creditors. This objective and intent is also apparent when we examine the company court rules, as per which the liquidator is to fix a date on or before which all creditors of the company are to prove their debts or claims and to establish any title they may have to priority under Section 530 of the Companies Act. Not only this, the rule enable a creditor to claim interest up to the date of the winding up order, and in certain circumstances, payment of interest subsequent to the date of winding up. There is, however, an exception to the twofold method, as has been held in Dena Bank versus BP Parekh and Company and others, which we will subsequently elucidate. This brings us to the interpretation of the expressions debt due and payable in Section 531A of the Companies Act. The interpretation is no longer debatable in view of the judgment of this court in Raj Rath Narayan Bhai Mills Company Limited versus Sales Tax Officer Perry, which has approved the view taken by D.A. Desai J. in his judgment in Sales Tax Officer Perry versus R.N. Mills Company Limited, and another a judgment which we respectfully submit forms the foundation of our reasoning and ratio in the present case. This court in R.N. Mills Company Limited, agreeing with the views expressed by D.A. Desai J. in Sales Tax Officer Perry, overruled the judgment of the division bench under challenge for several reasons, to hold that the words debt due occurring in the first part and the words as such here. Therefore, for a government debt to be covered under Clause A to Section 531 of the Companies Act, it must not only be a debt due, but it must also be a debt due and payable within 12 months next before the relevant date. The requirements of the latter portion of Clause A to Section 531 of the Companies Act are dual and cumulative, which is debt due and payable, and not one that is due. The debt due must have become payable at any time within 12 months next before the relevant date. The debt due and payable prior to 12 months next to the relevant date is not a preferential date, in terms of Section 531A of the Companies Act such that will rank pari passu with ordinary or unsecured creditors without any preferential treatment. Stop.